Hi, all. I'm Cullen Haynes, and welcome to Live with Cullen Haynes, episode 20 of Ledger Legends. And I've got an absolute legend for you that I'm bringing you. 20 years as it happens, 20th episode, 20 years in the finance space, trying to change the paradigm of numbers aren't everyone's cup of tea. Leading CA and leading fractional CFO with her firm, Bond Financial. Could you please make very welcome the one, the only, Miss Sarah Pyke, founder and managing director of Bond Financial. Welcome to the show and Ledger Legend, Sarah.
Hi, Cullen. How you going? Thanks for the lovely intro.
Of course, it's great to finally catch up. This has been on our cards all year, and I wanted to shout you out because, again, nobody actively goes into wanting to love numbers. Actually, people avoid it completely. So what you're doing is trying to basically offshore that and take it off their plate and be the specialist. Is that right? Am I basically summarizing what you do succinctly?
Yeah, look, that's the biggest part of it. But I think also a good chunk of that is just also removing though the stigma and the fear of judgment around it, because a lot of people, the first thing most people say is they're like, "Oh, I'm not good with numbers. This might be a silly question."
Yes.
All because they don't have the confidence in, what they know. But that's also because we went through an education system that didn't teach us anything about, finance and tax returns and taxes and tax file numbers.
Everything like that. It's actually the stuff that is probably the most important they teach us the least of.
Life skills. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into everything you're doing there, Sarah. But obviously, you started your firm, I believe, about 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, and you've been going from strength to strength. How would you sum up your firm journey so far, or your life in finance, using just film titles?
Oh gosh. For some reason,
you on the spot.
Well, for some reason, I do not know why. The first title that sort of comes up is like "Die Another Day."
Oh my goodness, I love that.
I don't know why. I honestly have no idea why. I would probably put that down.
That's a James Bond movie for those of you who don't know. James Bond.
Yeah, and look, that goes with the firm name, so maybe it's that. But maybe it was more in my corporate life that would resonate a bit more than it does now. But no, it certainly. Look, I was in corporate for a long time, 15 years, and then
yes.
Didn't really necessarily plan to be here, to be an entrepreneur, to have my own business. But now that I am here, it's exactly where I'm meant to be. So I'm very happy and I'm very proud of what we're building.
Amazing. And does the name come from James Bond? Tell us the origins of Bond Financial.
No, I think a lot of people might think that it does, or maybe Bond just sort of with the sort of relationship with finance. But no, so for me, look, I did want a strong name, and I guess 007 very much resonates with the whole Bond theme there. But no, it actually, yes. So Bond actually means connection or relationship. So I actually wanted something that had an underlying reason as to, with all my time in corporate, I really found that what seemed to be missing a lot with, whilst there was some really lovely relationships with clients and vice versa, there still was a lot that we could do to really make the people behind the businesses feel seen, feel heard, and feel supported. And so that bond, that connection is really what my business is all about.
It sounds like the human connection is the most important to you there, Sarah, at the end of the day. The numbers are obviously important, but the human element, I love that. And I would say, please put your comments, queries, or concerns into the chat box. We're beaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, and Instagram Live, of course. So put your comments in and we'll endeavor to get them in the next 20, 25 minutes. What sparked your interest, if I may ask, Sarah, in becoming a fractional outsourced CFO rather than the traditional accounting model? Because you obviously were in the traditional kind of firms in the past, but what made you go, you know what, there's a niche here, there's a need here, let's do it?
Yeah, I think I was probably about halfway through my corporate life when I actually started with a mid-tier firm, and they had this service offering for clients. So it was sort of, I came into, and for me, it was almost like, this perfect glove. It definitely suited exactly who I was and what I was looking to provide for clients. And it was But, really when it comes to outsourced CFO, it's forward looking. So, you're trying to write the story, you're trying to write the future before it's happened. Whereas with tax and a lot of the traditional accounting, it's backward looking. You're trying to unstitch things that might have happened 12 months ago, 18 months ago. Like you can't, there's only so much you can do to fix things that have already happened in the past. So with outsourced CFO, it really gives you the opportunity to really shape and change the future of a business and a business owner. And it's really people focused. And I really love that aspect of it.
I love that. It's actually re-switching that historian kind of traditional stereotype view of what an accountant does, and maybe like a business advisory, which is I know what you have on your LinkedIn and your website, because it's that strategic partner, right? And you said offline, I hope you don't mind me saying so, that everyone should be able to outsource various things in their life, not just the finance. If you're not the expert in learning to play the piano, get someone to teach you. If you don't know about the stock market, have someone guide you through it. Buying property, buyer's agent. I think I like the way your head's at in terms of having those trusted experts on your team.
Yeah, and when when you think about it, time, regardless of what context you want to use in, time is money. Time is our most precious resource. We don't get that time back. So, whether you're not good at something or it's just not worth your time, particularly when we talk about it in a business sense, you might be the founder of a business that has a brilliant idea, whether it's a brilliant product or a brilliant service, but it is not worth your time to do the bookkeeping or to be doing your social media marketing and management. Like that's where really the power of delegation and the power of outsourcing these things that you are not the champion of very much is in your best interests. And something that we very, very much advocate for.
Absolutely. Well, the leaders of the space, the journalists in the AFR obviously picked up what you're doing, the value you're adding, and you were featured in the AFR. Tell us about how that came about and what was it like to get your message out there in that regard?
Yeah, that was a first for me. That was a little exciting, and I was actually genuinely surprised by the number of people that I had sort of emailing and messaging and phoning and saying they'd seen it. People saw it before I did, so I didn't even get a heads up. But
thanks, AFR.
No, it was actually meant to come out with the budget, but because of what came out with that, and I think how it was maybe significantly different to maybe what we thought it was going to be. The original piece didn't really align with what was scoped out, but they really wanted to still move with a different part of it, and that's what came out in the end. But that was through a financial planner that I work very closely with, and the AFR wanted basically 2 to 3 people with different opinions from different aspects of some of these proposals. Obviously, they're some of the biggest changes we've had in, particularly around property for the last 40 years. And I think it's shaken a few people up. So it was an interesting piece.
Fantastic. We'll keep them coming. And I always like seeing your stuff when it comes out there, Sarah. Now, I will ask, and I hope you don't mind me saying so because you've got it out there. You own, a significant amount of properties compared to the average Australian. You've owned 5 in your lifetime. What's the strategy there in that you don't live in any of them? Obviously, there's no financial advice on this show. Go and speak to someone like Sarah, but you seem to be an advocate of property.
Yeah, I honestly can't sort of tell you where the roots of that came from. My family is definitely not invested in property. My parents bought their one and only family home for $75,000 in Tasmania about 40 years ago.
A shilling in a song. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so it was a very different time. But in saying that, the property was cheap, but interest rates were sort of 17%, which at the moment they're basically saying
Gen Z credit card rates. Come on.
Yeah, well, I think they're actually saying now though, and I think when we talk about Sydney, when you actually look at the two, even though yes, property were cheap back then, interest rates were high, the sort of the actual ability to get into property based on your earnings capacity is now about the same. So even though our interest rates are much lower now, it's just you've got to have 10 times your income to get into property in Sydney, which is just kind of nuts.
It is nuts.
Yeah, and look, I was fortunate. I haven't bought a property in the last 10 years. I invested a good sort of I first started the journey 16 years ago, and it was it's a very different landscape. It really was. And 100%. My first property cost me $165,000 in Wollongong, and Yeah, and and I was earning virtually peanuts, but the bank's like, oh well, no problems. You've got a salary at least.
That. We'll make that happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it was it just doesn't work like that now. But for me, I guess look, being in numbers and having already done my bachelor's and sort of looking, well, again, for me, it's about the numbers. It was about whether it stacked up. It actually, at the time, it stacked up for me that to buy that unit and move into that unit at that very point in time was cheaper than for me to rent the one across the hallway from there. But then I lived in that for 6 months, renovated it, moved out, and I've never lived in anything since. Because when you're living in a strata unit, it can actually end up being more beneficial.
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I'm endeared by what you're saying, Sarah. And I love the fact that you're an advocate for businesses, business owners, and you yourself are successful in your own finance realm. There's so many coaches, pundits, and professionals out there that aren't practicing what they preach, and you could be following their advice, but they don't even have their own house of cards kind of all set up nicely. So well done to you for setting yourself up early there.
Yeah, you. I'm glad you said that, Cullen, but I 100% agree with that.
No, me too. Because, and we're not denigrating anyone. It's a fact. Like there are so many people out there that are like, younger than me, but are giving advice to people that are 2 or 3 times older than them, and it just doesn't make sense. So you've got the substance behind you, got the backing, and I think that builds the trust. And it's a nice segue into my next question. What's a surprising skill that has helped you in your accounting career?
Oh, I often look at. I can't count how many times I've sort of said, they've said to me like, "Oh, but you don't really seem like an accountant. You don't really come across as an accountant." I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from, but no, it's
your branding is quite fun, and you're quite energizing and things like that. It's not the stereotypical view of what an accountant, right or wrong, is basically.
Yeah, and look, when you say what's that one skill, I would say it's the people skills. It's being able to talk in front of a crowd. It's being able to make small talk with literally anybody, and it's also being able to take a topic, translate it, and really help someone to understand it in very basic language. Particularly towards the end of my career in corporate, most of what I did was I sat in meetings with clients. I'd had the partner in the firm, sort of talking to the client, and they'd be looking at me going, what did he just say? Like it could have been it could have been a different language. They did not understand what they were saying, and so I would literally sit there as an interpreter and sort of be like, oh, when he says that, he means this, and this is what this means for you guys, and look, don't worry about that. That's and it was very much. We, as an industry, we are still struggling to really make clients feel comfortable and at ease with what we're telling them.
No, very well said. And I think you probably built so much rapport in those meetings that they said, Sarah, can we talk to you afterwards? That we probably prefer to deal with you rather than the partner, and hence why you hung up your own shingle and started out and you're so successful now. I would love to ask you, because obviously high stakes world of finance, how do you unwind after a particularly tough day with the things that are coming across your desk and the wins that you're getting for your clients?
I don't know whether I should admit to this, but I'm a real K-drama fan. So
oh my gosh, okay. So you love movies like Parasite and all that kind of stuff?
Oh no! So no, I'm not a Squid Games K-drama fan. I am very much. I'm very much a rom-com. Crash Landing on You, Kings. Yeah, there's.
Okay, well, I don't know any of them. So Crash Landing on that. So you got to get me into it. So Crash Landing on You is the first entry point if I wanted to get into K-pop drama.
Kings the Land was also a very good one.
Okay.
But yeah, there's the thing is, once you're down that rabbit hole, it is very large and wide, and you can be down there for a very long time.
Now let me ask you this, because I know with foreign movies and shows, there's an argument between should you listen to it in English dubbed or should you have it with the subtitles. What do you think for immersion is the best, so you're not on your phone? Do you recommend subtitles or do you have it in the dub?
Well, I must admit, after a while, dubbing is just easier. Like you don't have to
Yes.
you don't have to read and think the whole entire time. But I must admit, I must be perfectly honest, I have actually learned Korean purely through watching K-dramas.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, 안녕하세요. 감사합니다. Like I like literally picked up the basic like actual language from watching them. So if you watch enough of them, it can have benefits.
It goes in. I love that. I absolutely love that. So we'll have to get into those. And any passion projects you're working on right now that you're able to share with everyone online? We'd love to know.
Passion. Well, look, on the property front, I'm actually subdividing a property down home in Tasmania. And I
love that.
Yeah, there's been a real boom down there in subdivision in the particular area that I own a property. So looking at getting that done and freeing up a little bit of sort of equity there and cash as well. But outside of that, I've actually really got back into. I've progressively throughout sort of my life, I've done volunteering, and I've been recently getting back into that in more of a regular way. I am the treasurer and board member of the Sydney Dogs and Cats Home and have been for the last couple of years. So that's and we're finally at the very pointy end of a very large development in Kurnell. They're just moving into a new facility, and hopefully October. Now it keeps
exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be massive. It's actually basically the actual facility is almost all but done, but there's a few
amazing
things we're waiting on to be finalised. But yes, that, and then I'm also a aged care volunteer for Catholic Healthcare. So I have a coffee and a biscuit every couple of weeks with a lady here in Hornsby where I live, and that keeps me busy on every couple of Sundays.
That's very special. And how do you have so much time to invest in these things and give? It seems like you're so full time with your work. You must have 25 or 26 hours in a day.
No, I don't know whether some of those things that you're born with, or if you're good at organisation, but I have always been quite organised. So I don't know if it's down to that, but I also do have pretty firm boundaries, and that's one thing I think when you're coming to business as well. I had firm boundaries in corporate, but as an employee, it's kind of easy to, sort of clock off and clock on in the hours
Absolutely.
that you're, designated. But as a business owner, that line gets very, very blurry. So it's important to still maintain some sort of boundary, whether it's just the weekends, but yeah, you've got to still have time for yourself.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. I'd love to ask you, who has been the most influential mentor in your journey to date, would you say, that you'd like to shout out?
That's an interesting question, because I feel like I do a lot of reading, and there's certainly sort of business people and like I also love psychology and sort of the whole reason behind why people do things, and
yes,
I guess where we've come from and how we've almost been programmed in a way from childhood. So I do love all of that and how it plays a part. I think we're all, depending on where we end up and the level of resilience we have, or even the level of entrepreneurship we have, that's all formed from our formative childhood years. So whether it's you had great role models that you followed and that's made you into a great business person, or
yes,
maybe you had some less than great ones and it was a hard childhood and that's made you really resilient and overachieving and stuff like that. Like they all still have their benefits. So I don't think there's any one person, but I really like to take it from different pieces. I always love Richard Branson's mentality of, say yes and figure it out later.
I love it. Screw it, let's do it.
I've always kind of held that, close to my heart with almost everything. Because if you say yes, you just never know where it could take you.
I love that. Say yes more. I think that's incredible. And look, I know our crystal ball is broken at the best of times, looking into the future, and we do our best. But, 2 questions. Where do you see the accounting profession going in the next 10 years? And what would you like to see change?
I feel like I've had a very similar question to this 2 to 3 times in the last couple of weeks. And look, everyone's like, 'cause like, AI, how's it going to impact it, and how sort of disrupting is that going to be? And I almost, for me, when I think back, it was actually the moment we went into cloud accounting was actually probably the biggest change that we had seen, and
with the likes of Xero and things like that, right?
Yeah, and the biggest change in that it happened on both sides, because we got access to things, we got efficiencies, but then the clients also expected us to be able to do things straight away and pay less for it, and it was a huge change. And I don't think AI is going to be that disruptive. I think AI is obviously going to make us a lot more efficient, and you can now run whole processes that are going to make us faster. But I don't necessarily see that the client will feel that. We will definitely see it on the practice side, and it's going to be, it can be a game changer. It's obviously going to give us analytical and reporting functionality quicker and maybe better than we've had before. But I think I don't think it'll be as big as maybe that prior sort of disruption. Look, as far as changing, I think it's horses for courses. There's a lot of the clients I speak to, they're still struggling with that communication piece. The communication piece they're getting, they're like, look, I don't dislike my accountant. I don't have anything against them. But I can never get hold of them. They never call me back. I'm always chasing them instead of them chasing me. Like, that proactivity seems to be lacking a little bit. But and so I think that depends on what particular clients are looking for, what segment of the market maybe you're in, and what the services are that you're really after. But I do think communication in our industry, could be better. I think there comes time when even, as firms, we grow out of clients and we might stop servicing certain clients, and rather than just tell them that, we kind of just ghost them and just hope that they take themselves off. But they often burn the bridges on the way out. So I think communication is definitely something that we could spend a little bit more time on, and that compassion and empathy. Look, as far as AI goes, AI can take the rest of what we do. AI is going to be, Claude, you can already integrate with Xero. It's going to pull the numbers, it's going to pull the data, it's going to reconcile it, it's going to look at all that sort of stuff. But the people aspect of what we do, AI can't take that. The compassion, the empathy, the actual relationship. It can't read that.
But it can't actually make those decisions well at the moment.
Correct. And that's the part that we have to foster. That's the part that we have to keep, developing and improving on, because that's the part that we will always own.
Well said. And any lessons you'd like to impart to younger finance professionals, lawyers, or anyone getting into the professional services industry that you would like to have known when you started?
I think, look, it really is a great profession. It really is, but it's if you, it's really about people. So you really are in a customer service role. If that is not what you want, then, maybe it's not right for you. Yeah, because it really is. Yes, okay, there's numbers involved, in the legal profession, there's other things involved, but it's all people-based. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with the good, the bad, depending on where you are in our industry. If you're in something like insolvency, there's some really, you have some really thick skin for some of those.
Absolutely.
Engagements. So I think, look, do not discount and do not take your personal skills and your soft skills for granted, because they will literally take you places, whether it's with your colleagues, whether it's with your bosses, whether it's with your clients. For me, I feel like, the only reason I progressed where I did and as quickly as I did was basically due to my people skills and the fact that I would network a lot. I would do, I do presentations. Okay, it still scared the crap out of me, but I would do them. I would go to B&I meetings, I would go to networking events, and I would walk into rooms of complete strangers and just show up. And even if I have to sort of, put on a little bit of a facade, I said yes, figured it out later.
I love that. I think I'm endeared by what you're saying, because it's something that Jim Rohn talked about, the late great Jim Rohn. He said, in his first couple of seminars and teachings he did, he probably would have walked out if he wasn't presenting. So you just got to have that thick skin. Practice makes permanent, and you'll get there one day. Look, I'm going to bring you back to some bonus questions, but I want to finish on this one. And thank you for being part of the show, Sarah. When all is said and done one day, how would you like to one day be remembered?
I would like to be remembered on how I made people feel, and there's that quote sort of about, people won't remember what you did or what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And
absolutely.
I've used it a few times, probably on my socials, deep down. But yeah, I want to remember how they felt, either by what we sort of did for them, or how we made them feel seen and supported. That's really what I hope my legacy is.
And I think you're already doing that in spades there, Sarah. I can feel it.
Thanks, Cullen.
I can see it, and it's exciting. So how can people get in touch with you? Obviously, there's people listening in my network, your network, that may want to engage. What's the best way? LinkedIn, website? How are you most accessible to engage
well,
with
there is I'm not on TikTok and I'm not on X, but I am on almost everything. I am on almost everything else. So look, you can find me on LinkedIn under both my personal Sarah Pyke, or we do have a business page, Bond Financial. Instagram, we're Bond Financial Sydney, so that's our Instagram presence. Otherwise, our website is www.bondfinancial.com.au.
I love that. Make sure that you get in touch with Sarah and her team at Bond Financial. Very cool things that they're doing in the space. Thank you so much there, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to have you on the show, and we'll bring you back for some bonus questions very soon.
Thanks so much, Cullen.
Thanks, Sarah. And if you are a legend in the space or know someone who is, and you want to be on the Ledger Legend show, we come out every Wednesday on the Live with Cullen Haynes show. We're booked out pretty much to the end of the year, but if you want to get into 2027, we're taking a wait list. Thank you so much for everyone who supported the show. Really means the world. Like and subscribe on wherever you listen to your podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. And really big, massive shout outs to Accounting Home Loans for supporting this show, and of course, Legal Home Loans as well. And for my professional audience who are doing well, please consider looking into our charity partner, Relove, who helps victims of domestic violence rehome. Usually it's females going out with their children with nothing, and Relove basically goes in and provides, furnishings for their homes so they can provide a sturdy lifestyle for their children. So it's an amazing company. They do amazing things. Look it up on our website, Relove, and see how your donation can impact those looking to break away from the perils of domestic violence. So thank you so much for everyone tuning in. And please, please, please get home safely. All the best, everyone. Make it count and take care. Bringing you back, Sarah, I've got a few bonus questions. How would you explain your role to my 3-year-old child who's pretty switched on, Benji, but how would you make it as simple as possible?
Look, in a perfect world, I would like to think that I'm, assisting people to not make boo-boos before they make boo-boos. So that's what an accountant really hopes that they're able to do. But most of the time the client makes a boo-boo, and then they call me to try and fix it, and it's too late to fix the boo-boo.
Amazing. He'll be endeared by that as well, I'm sure, if you're watching and listening, Benji. If you have one or had one, how would your pet describe you?
Annoying. I really I grew up on sort of a small hobby farm in Tasmania, and I really love my pets. I haven't really had much in Sydney because I've just always lived in an apartment. But when I love my pet, it knows it. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. And a quick one, how would your clients describe you when you're not in the room?
I think it comes back to that energy. They're like, she's always friendly and sort of upbeat and happy to see us. And and I guess another thing I've kind of got across the years is they're like, Sarah, you're very direct, but not rude. Like you get to the point, but it's not fluffy. And I was like, okay,
I love that.
Yeah.
If you know what DISC is, the direct, influencer, conscientious and analytical kind of thing. I reckon you'd be like a DI or an ID. You'd be at the top there. You're direct, but you're quite influential, which is good in your line of work as well. And my last question, if you could go back in time and give the young Sarah Pyke, I know you're in your early 20s now, but if you could go back in time and give yourself advice at any age, when would you go back and visit yourself?
Ooh.
And what would the specific advice be you'd give the young Sarah Pyke?
You're getting deep now, Cullen.
We all finish on a high note.
No, I'll probably go back to even, like sort of grade 6 or grade 7, and
okay,
because I feel like that's when all the things that I kind of know now, all things that you learn later in life around, and that's sort of coming back to this psychology kind of side of things is it's often never about you. However someone's reacting or whatever it is that's happening, and whatever they're saying or doing or projecting.
So true.
It's often got absolutely nothing to do with you. So
you are not that important.
No, do not take it personally. But I wish someone had told me that 20 years ago.
I think that's so important, and more people need to take that on board. And I think we said it in our previous episode with Samantha Lewis on the live in episode 92 today. Be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle you know nothing about. They could have lost a loved one. They could be in financial stress. They could be homeless, whatever it is. I think that's so true. And I think more people need to spread that kindness and have that mindset. So I think that's a great message to give your younger self, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing those wise words of wisdom.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Cullen. It's been a pleasure.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much again, Sarah, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All the best, and get home safely, and take care, everyone. Hey there, Cullen Haynes here, Australia's leading broker for lawyers on LinkedIn, and here's why I want to talk to you today about my new book, The Laws of LinkedIn, 23 ways to find your tribe, build your following, and make 7 figures on LinkedIn. When I started this journey 7 years ago, when we built, myself and Andrew, my business partner, we built Legal Home Loans from the ground up, the pain point for us was we were at a standing start. No one knew who we were. We had no money, we had no contacts, and basically we had to find a way to make our voice heard, talk to our tribe, the legal community, and build trust. And the only thing we had at our disposal was LinkedIn, which was and still is free. There's over 1 billion people on LinkedIn, and I wish when I started I had this book with me to guide me, because I basically distilled my 23 top leading hacks that we use to build our business to a 7+ figure, and I really want to get it out there and share it with you. So if you're back